Your Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, and Mama, the First Lady and the Minister of Education, Your Excellency the President of Zimbabwe, Your Excellencies the former heads of states and government, the First Deputy Prime Minister of Equatorial Guinea, the Third Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Ministers, the President of the United Nations Economic Social Council, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, leaders of regional and international organizations, religious leaders, the honorable members of Parliament, the members of the diplomatic corps, representatives of development partners, the private sector and civil society organizations, the academia and research institutions, our youth and women leaders, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege for me to stand before you to welcome you to Uganda for the 11th Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development. Your Excellencies, Uganda is truly a privilege to host this esteemed gathering of leaders and experts from across Africa and beyond, united by a common purpose to accelerate progress towards the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Africa's Agenda 2063. Your Excellencies, this forum has a special place in Uganda and indeed African journey. Just a year ago, in April, I had the honor of being invited by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa to deliver a keynote address at the 10th African Regional Forum in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. It was during that engagement that Uganda was elected the third vice chair of the Bureau, a testament to our nation's commitment to sustainable development and regional cooperation. Inspired by the vision of this forum, I consulted you, Mr. President, and with your guidance and support, Uganda applied and was honored to be selected as this year's host. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to sincerely thank the Executive Secretary of ECA and the entire Bureau for entrusting Uganda with this responsibility. Your Excellencies, over the past 3 days, the African Regional Forum on SDGs has been enriched by a series of impactful pre-events that have brought critical voices and bold ideas to the forefront. From COP27 preparatory dialogues, the message was clear. Africa must speak with one voice in demanding for climate justice and scaled up adaptation financing. Your Excellencies, we have had sessions on science, technology and innovation, digital transformation in delivering the SDGs. The Ministers of Finance and the private sector leaders emphasized the urgency for innovative and blended financing models to bridge the SDG financing gaps. Faith-based organizations highlighted the moral responsibility to care for people and the planet, while parliamentarians committed to enhancing and enacting stronger legislative frameworks to respond to the climate crises. Our children and the youth who are here present made a passionate call for inclusion and intergenerational justice, reminding us that the future must be shaped with their voices at the table. The African Former Leaders Forum, graced by Your Excellency with a keynote address, emphasized leadership, Pan-Africanism, peace, and economic transformation as essential enablers to achieving Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063. These diverse and powerful messages have laid a solid foundation for this forum. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, recognition of participants allow me before you to inform you, Your Excellency, to recognize and appreciate the distinguished individuals and groups who have honored with us their presence. Our esteemed heads of states and government, whose leadership is shaping Africa's transformation. Of course, most of them are near you. I know we have the President of Zimbabwe and the other heads of governments who are here. Your Excellency, we have the Executive Secretary of ECA for the Commission's instrumental role in advancing SDG and Agenda 2063. The Honorable Ministers and government representatives whose policies and actions drive national and regional development. Your Excellency, we have the former Prime Ministers of Uganda, whose leadership has laid the foundation for Uganda's progress. Your Excellency, allow me to recognize Honorable Sam Kutesa, who served as President of the United Nations General Assembly between the year 2015 and 2016, a period that saw the historic adoption of the SDGs. The honorable members of Parliament, whose legislative role is crucial in advancing the Sustainable Development Agenda, and most of them are here. I would request that they stand up for recognition. Your Excellency, representatives from regional and international organizations who play a vital role in policy formulation and implementation. Our diplomatic corps and development partners for their continued support and cooperation in Africa's development journey. I recognize the private sector and civil society whose innovation and advocacy are key in sustainable and inclusive growth. We have the academia and research institutions who provide evidence-based solutions to policy making. We have the youth and women leaders whose voices and contributions are essential for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and ensuring that no one is left behind. Your Excellency, allow me to acknowledge the organizing committees for the successful hosting of this forum because of their collective effort. Allow me to recognize the political committee, which I had the honor to chair, for the strategic guidance. The political committee or the ministerial committee. I can see Honorable Kasule Lumumba and many others. Your Excellency, the ministerial committee was also chaired by the Right Honorable Kasule Lumumba for the policy leadership. Thank you so much. Your Excellency, we had the National Organizing Committee, which was chaired by the Permanent Secretary, Alex Kakoza, Office of the Prime Minister. We have the SDG Secretariat in my office, led by Dr. Albert Byamgisha. I thank you for your tireless efforts. Your Excellency, allow me to recognize you for your visionary leadership as a front runner in the implementation of sustainable development goals in Uganda. I also want to thank you for supporting this event with funding. Your Excellency and honorable members, under the guidance of His Excellency the President, Uganda has taken significant strides in advancing inclusive growth, social transformation, and economic resilience, ensuring that SDGs remain central in our national development agenda. Your steadfast commitment continues to inspire not only Uganda, but the entire African continent. As I conclude, Your Excellency and distinguished guests, this gathering is a testament to Africa's shared determination to accelerate progress on sustainable development. We are here, Your Excellencies, to reaffirm our collective commitment to principles of inclusivity, equity, and resilience. It is now my honor to invite you, Your Excellency, to deliver the keynote address that will inspire and guide our collective action. I thank you so much for God and my country.
Hello, His Excellency President Mnangagwa, President of Zimbabwe, the former heads of state, President Kikwete, Prime Minister Mariam, the heads of delegations, members of the diplomatic corps, all the attendants of this conference. I welcome you to Uganda, and I thank you for having selected Uganda for this meeting. You are most welcome. This is a topic which is very good to discuss when we are all gathered here. And in the case of Uganda, because we are talking about socio-economic transformation and job creation, although sometimes the matter is not thoroughly dealt with, because sometimes they talk about sustainable development. And I'm a bit suspicious of that description, as I will tell you later. The story of Uganda in the matter of economic transformation, because that is the topic, transformation. In recent times, starts with 1900 AD. In Uganda, here we say, Lukumi Rwanda, 1900. when the British declared Uganda a protectorate after the defeat of our inefficient kings. Our kings were hopeless. They didn't organize us to defeat the British. We could have defeated them. At that time, Uganda was a pre-capitalist traditional economy and society based on subsistence agriculture of crops and livestock, artisanship, what we call emyoga in our language, fisheries, and some services such as healing, treating people, called okuragura in our language. So you, the experts, you need to be very specific in describing these phenomena. I don't know but I suspect the economies of the other African countries at that time, 1900, were maybe about the same. Certainly the ones of East Africa, which we know, because those ones we know, Tanzania, Congo, Rwanda, South, those ones we know. They were like us. Pre-capitalist, based on crops, livestock, some artisan skills, and in some cases, fishing. The mode of exchange that time was okchurka. Okchurka in our language means barter trade. They were doing business by barter trade. And it is called okchurka in our language. With a little use, they had started using money. A little use of cowrie shells and CMB as money. Cowrie shells. They were beginning to use money at that time, but money using cowrie shells. And it's called nsimbi in our language, which is the same word we use for money even today. That is 1900. By 1962, the British were here only for 68 years. By 1962, when the British left, the British had created a small enclave economy. In the 1960s, in the universities, we were using those words, but I no longer hear them. The words we were using in the 1960s were enclave economies. That was the economy of Uganda at that time at independence, just like they had done in other colonies. Even the other colonies, it was more or less the same. An enclave economy meant a small island of modernity surrounded by a sea of underdevelopment. That's why we're calling them enclave economies. A small island of modernity surrounded by a sea of underdevelopment. That is why they were called enclave island economies. In the case of Uganda, the small island of modernity and money economy was comprised of the 3 C's and 3 T's. That's how they were describing the economy of Uganda by 1963. An economy of the 3 C's and the 3 T's. The three C's were cotton, coffee, and copper. These were the 3 C's. The 3 T's were tobacco, tea, and tourism. So that was the small economy of Uganda at independence, 1962. Just on 6 activities: copper, coffee, cotton, tea, tobacco, and tourism. The agricultural products and the minerals, copper, were being exported as raw materials. In français, I hear matière première. That's what I hear them saying, matière première. So these products were being exported as raw materials. This meant that on the average, getting about 10% of the value of the product. Because when you export a raw material, you get only about 10% of the value of that product. If you take coffee, when you export a kilogram of coffee, you will get about $2.5 of unprocessed coffee. Somebody who is cleverer than you takes the coffee, roasts it, grinds it, packs it, and he gets $40 when you got 2.5. You, the African, you got 2.5 for your coffee. Somebody who is cleverer than you got $40, and all the jobs, because remember, all those are jobs. You are talking of jobs, jobs. These are the jobs. The job of roasting the coffee is exported. The one who roasts the coffee is not your daughter. The job of grinding, the job of packaging, all these are exported. There used to be a Paris club called for donors. I don't know why they were not calling Africans. Because Africans have been the major donors for the others. They have been donating money, because in a kilo of coffee, you donate almost $30. You donate to the outsiders. And you also donate jobs. So you are the big donors here, you people. When you export a raw material and somebody goes and makes more money out of it and creates jobs for his children, when you as here have no jobs, you are the donor. You are donating money. You are donating jobs. That's what Africans have been doing. 10% of the value of the product and exporting all the jobs value addition brings. Apart from the mistake of having no or little value addition, the enclave economy covered only 4% of the homesteads of Uganda by 1962. So that economy of the 3 C's and the 3 T's, 1962, was covering only 4% of the homesteads. 96% of the homesteads were outside the money economy. They were working only for the stomach. Okukorera ekida kyonka, we say in our language. Working only for the stomach. However, in 1971, Idi Amin took over the country. And by 1986, when the NRM came to power, the enclave economy had been destroyed. So Idi Amin comes in and destroys the small island. The small island of Mane is now destroyed by Idi Amin. Because Idi Amin was a colonial sergeant, didn't know anything. Although he was calling himself a field marshal, came and destroyed everything. Only coffee and tobacco were still limping on. By the time we came, all the others had collapsed. Tourism had collapsed. Cotton had collapsed. All the others had collapsed except coffee and tobacco, which was still limping on. Therefore, the NRM has had to start with a ruined literal enclave economy and the sea of the underdeveloped homesteads and population. Since that time, we have achieved the following. Number one, we have been able to have the minimum economic recovery by bringing back some of the 3 C's and the 3 T's. So we are now to try and bring back some of the 3 C's and the 3 T's. Go back to 1971, in other words. Number 2, expanding the 3 C's and the 3 T's where possible. For instance, if you take coffee, exports in that time were 3 million bags. In 1986, they are now 9 million bags. We are now exporting 9 million bags of coffee. And the same for the other products. Tea, more, we are producing more of those. Number 3, diversifying the economy by commercializing other products, such as milk. You can imagine in the colonial times, we are drinking imported milk. I'm a milkman myself. In the village, I have cows all the time. But my cows, we are not selling milk to the towns. In the towns, people were drinking milk from New Zealand, from Australia, from Switzerland, and later on from Kenya a little bit. So, and we are being told that milk is not a cash product. It is just a food. You just eat it at home. For cash product, it is only coffee. What the colonial people wanted is what they told us, that coffee was a cash crop, but milk was a food to be eaten by the villagers. So what we have done, we have commercialized all these products: milk, beef, leather, maize, fruits, fish, etc., etc. All those are now cash crops, cash products. So that is number 3. Number 4, adding value to the raw materials. This is our big war now. Adding value to the raw materials. Because if you don't do that, that's actually the biggest problem we see in Africa. If you take We have got very good iron ore here. It's the best in the world, 70% pure. But some time ago, an Indian company came and said they wanted to export iron ore to India as iron ore. I said, and what would that mean? They would pay us $47 per ton of iron ore. Now, when you process iron ore into steel, that time the price was $900. So here, you Ugandans, you would get $47 from your iron ore called obutare in our language. That's what we call it, obutare. And somebody will get $900 from from what you get $47, which is yours. Somebody will get $900. And all the jobs, because remember, all those jobs of the machines, of the what, will be abroad. So I said, no way. And you must have heard that I banned the export of unprocessed minerals. No unprocessed mineral leaves Uganda now. I told our people here that if you can't process the minerals, let them stay in the ground. The grandchildren will come and process them. You go to heaven and solve your problems. But don't take away our people's minerals. If you can't process them, leave them there. A company came from, I think it was Canada, and they said, you people, you have got uranium. I said, yes, I know it. I said, I want to mine it and take it. Take it where? In order to do what? Oh, I will go and generate electricity. But why do you want to generate electricity in Canada when I have no electricity here? Why don't you process it here? I have heard a rumor that there are human beings here. So I said goodbye to the group. The uranium is still in the ground. Let it stay there. So this business of raw materials is very, very dangerous. Now, finally, we have now started entering the knowledge economy. Not only adding value to the raw materials, but transforming them into finished products. Like now we are making buses, they can show them to you here if they have them. Because these people, some of these people here are highly educated, the engineers. So we have challenged them and they are coming up. Those buses are built from the scratch here. That bus is called Chira. Chira is our name for the Nile. The Nile River, we call it, in our language here, we call it Chira. So a Chira vehicle is that one there. They can also show you the agriculture. Show us the bananas. Now, when there was a war in Ukraine, people were saying that there was going to be no food in Uganda. I said, you must be sick. How can Uganda get food from Ukraine? We have a lot of food here. Our problem with the market, where to sell the food. So the bananas, the coffee, do you have the coffee on your screen? Those are coffee factories. The cows, show the cows. Do you have cows? You don't have cows, you people? So we are struggling. The story of coffee is really scandalous. The global value of coffee is $460 billion. But all the coffee producing countries, out of the 460 billion, they share 25 billion. They take away 25 billion. Value 460 billion. The coffee growing countries, all of them, African ones, Vietnam, Brazil, they take only 25 billion. And Africa, 2.5 billion only. Germany earns more from coffee than all the coffee growing countries. Germany earns $65 billion from coffee. Yet they don't produce a single kilo of coffee. Show us the cows, please. You don't have the cows?
It's coming yellow.
And the factories of the milk factories, not just the cow. Those are the indigenous Nile Valley cows. But those are the factories of the milk. So we are now in what I would call phase 5, where we are entering the knowledge economy. Automobiles, vaccines, computers, making all those instead of importing them. In diversifying the economy, we had to struggle with the big portion of the population that was outside the money economy, and we are only producing for home consumption. By 2013, these were still 68% of the homesteads. By 2013, 68% of the homesteads were still outside the money economy. Apart from earlier programs, we had to bring in the army. Because the problem with you see, Uganda, the climate is so good, life is easy, you don't have to work. You can just be idle and you eat from your relatives. So it's a struggle to make them wake up. So we had to bring in the army and Operation Wealth Creation to distribute free seedlings of coffee, of fruits to the homesteads, as well as breeding stock. Later on, we phased out the army and started the formation of the circles of wealth creators per parish. We guide that these wealth creators select enterprises with ekibaro. Ekibaro is our word for calculating the benefit. Ekibaro is, in Swahili they will say esabu. They should select enterprises that are in tandem with the size of the land of the wealth creator. The ones with big land are flexible and either do extensive agriculture, doing a low value enterprise but do it on a big scale, or use intensive agriculture, doing high value enterprise on small pieces of land. Activities that fall in the latter category are the ones of high value are coffee, fruits, dairy farming, piggery, poultry, fish farming, and growing food crops. Recently, our people have added cocoa and palm oil. Palm oil, show us that palm oil if you have it. You can imagine that all the soap we were washing with was from palm oil from Malaysia and Indonesia. So if there is a problem in Malaysia or Indonesia, we would end up not washing. So we started growing the palm oil. They can show it to you when they get it. Using intensive agriculture, a 1 acre model can create jobs for 15 people. You are talking about jobs. Agriculture alone, here in Uganda, we have found that if you commercialize it, you will create a lot of jobs in agriculture. 1 acre, well planned for intensive agriculture for dairy or poultry, creates 15 jobs. Uganda has got 40 million acres suitable for agriculture. If we use only 7 million of these acres, and each one creates 15 jobs, 105 million jobs will be created. 105 million jobs will be created in agriculture alone. This is more jobs for the whole population of Uganda than the whole population of Uganda. Population of Uganda is now 46 million. But you can create 105 million jobs by using just 1/4 of the arable land of Uganda. This is just for agriculture, commercial agriculture. Commercial agriculture as opposed to subsistence agriculture, okukola ekida kyonka. However, the wealth and jobs are not only to be got in agriculture. There are 3 other sectors which are industry and artisanship, manufacturing, factories like the ones you saw. That is palm oil. That is palm oil. Palm oil needs a lot of rain. But palm oil was exported from Nigeria and taken to Indonesia and Malaysia. And they now became the big producers of palm oil. Even we were importing the palm oil from Malaysia and Indonesia until recently when we started doing palm oil ourselves. So there are sectors, other sectors other than agriculture, manufacturing, and artisanship, services, hotels, tourism, what have you, and ICT. We treat ICT as a separate sector. As of now, agriculture is employing 3.6 million people. Industry is employing 1.4 million people. Services are employing 5 million people. And ICT is employing 46,000 people. We are just beginning, but you can see the jobs can be created. The hotels, tourism, transport is employing a lot of people. In order for the 4 sectors to be fully developed so as to create wealth and jobs, they need low-cost transport, the railway and the lake transport. Part of the mistakes in Africa have been to neglect the railways. And this is what I told the World Bank when we met in Nairobi. How can you talk of private sector-led growth if you don't talk about lowering the costs of doing business? Now, some of the factors that bring costs to go up is transport of cargo. If you have got expensive cargo transport, how would the companies succeed? So, rail transport, lake transport, electricity, an educated and healthy workforce, stopping the export of raw materials, low cost of money for borrowing to do business, a big market of Africa and beyond. Now, those are the obstacles that you should really concentrate on. Here, I have not gone into it here because this is a short speech. But fortunately, I had made this statement in Nairobi when we had the TICAD, a meeting with the Japanese there, the Prime Minister of Japan. All this time we have been around as a student movement in the 1960s, as a fighting force, and now having been in government, and also working with our brothers from Africa. Mwalimu Nyerere, we interacted with him a lot. Shavyarira from Zimbabwe. We have been able to, we think we have identified the bottlenecks, strategic bottlenecks. Now in this booklet, which they will give you, we have identified 10 bottlenecks. Bottleneck number 1, ideological disorientation. The belief in the politics of identity. This is the big curse in Africa. People who believe in the politics of identity. Tribe, religion. For us, we say this is wrong. You should look at the politics of interest. It is all mentioned here. Because of that, you find many countries cannot build state institutions. They cannot build pillars of state. How would you build an army if you believe in tribalism? Will you have an army for every tribe? If you don't believe in Uganda, how would you have a Uganda army? Now, if you don't have an army, what happens? You can't maintain peace. That's why people have got to go to the United Nations to come and defend them. Can you imagine? UN troops in Africa, what are they doing? defending you. Why can't you defend yourself? Because of the wrong, the underdevelopment of the human resource, lack of industrialization, and the export of the raw materials, which we have talked about here. Now, but also, these Ugandans can tell you that when you wake up a bit and start doing some work, you will soon find that the internal market of Uganda is not enough. Like the milk I'm talking about. We are producing 5.3 billion liters of milk, but the internal market is only 800 million liters. If we didn't have the East African community, the dairy sector in Uganda would have collapsed. Sugar, show us the sugar if you have the sugar there on your pictures. Sugar. What saves us is the East African market. So, you people, you must emphasize regional integration for the market, so that we have got, our business people have got guaranteed markets. And so on, they are 10, they are all here in this booklet. Now, finally, by removing the bottlenecks, you will create capacity for socio-economic transformation, not mere quantitative growth, sustainable growth. Because when you say sustainable development, can a child remain a child sustainably? That is a child sustainably. A child at puberty must transform into a teenager. A teenager must transform into an adult. This is the law of nature. Quantitative growth leading to qualitative change. But if you are a raw material exporting country, how would you transform? So I'm very glad that you are beginning to use in our vocabulary the words transformation. We must go from pre-industrial to industrial societies. I talked a little bit. I talked about it the other day with the leaders. How can you have a peasant producing another peasant? Until when? The peasant must disappear and we have the middle class. In Francais, we say bourgeoisie. The peasant, peasant must go, and we have bourgeoisie and proletariat, the working class, skilled working class. Europe has transformed. If you go to Europe in 1400, they had three classes. They had the peasants, the artisans, and the feudalists. By the time of the French Revolution, Francais, 1789, there were now four social classes. The feudalists, there was now a new class which never existed in human history, the middle class. Classe moyenne, you say? Is that how you say? Classe moyenne. Bourgeoisie. These were a new social class. And then the proletariat, the working class, and then the peasants. But if you go to Europe today, There are no more feudalists. There are no more peasants. It is now class moyenne and the skilled working class. Society has changed. But here, we are engaged in conservation of underdevelopment. A peasant producing another peasant. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda. Can we put our hands together and once again appreciate the President for that educative presentation that has given us how Uganda has moved, but definitely the story can be extrapolated to look at other countries in Africa. So thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that insightful presentation. And indeed, like he presented, Uganda's story after independence is more or less like what happened to the other countries in Africa. Our countries were characterized by a number of issues: neo-colonial interference, bad governance, conflicts and social disruption, lack of progress, among other challenges. Probably what he didn't emphasize, that President Yoweri Museveni, as a young person, as a student, was not happy with what he was seeing in terms of how the country and the continent was moving. And he put up a challenge and started a resistance movement and challenged the status quo and rewrote the history of this country by starting a new chapter. And I want to thank you, Your Excellency, that by the time you inherited this country, Uganda was like a patient that was surviving on oxygen and steroids. And like you heard from his presentation, Uganda is on a forward march. And when we look at the quality of life indicators, they continue to improve tremendously in the last 30, 40 years. And we give credit to our President who led us very well.
Excuse-moi. Just one comment. Really, the solutions are with us. I had forgotten to mention this. We had some argument with the Europeans recently. We passed a law which was discouraging homosexuality here. Then Mr. Biden removed us from the AGOA list. He chased us. That was one. Number two, the World Bank stopped giving us loans. But our economy grew by 6%. We are not bothered with all that. What is crucial for me, of all this, apart from our own mistakes, the next most important thing is regional integration. If we avoid internal mistakes and we are clear about the regional integration, the regional market, there is nothing, all that things that happen outside will not concern us. I thought I should mention that one also. The economy of Uganda has been growing very fast with or without external support. But with the external support, now they have come back. They say we are good people. So we say you are most welcome. Thank you very much. Sorry to
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that additional information. And we appreciate you, sir, for your leadership. As I was saying, that under the leadership of President Yoweri Museveni, the quality of life indicators in Uganda have tremendously improved. If I can just give one example, that in the late 80s, early 90s, because of HIV and AIDS and other challenges, our life expectancy at birth had dropped to 43 years. But our recent studies, including the census, have shown that over the time, this has now increased to 72 years. And for those of you who are scholars, this is phenomenal. From 43 years, and a period of about 30, 40 years, it has increased to 72 years. Can we appreciate that? Your Excellency, we thank you. We thank you very much for your educative presentation. As we come to the conclusion of the opening ceremony, let me once again recognize the members of Parliament from different countries in Africa who are here. There are those who belong to the Parliamentary Forum on Climate Change, and they have been here having discussions. Your Excellency, we also have our religious leaders. The various interreligious councils in Africa are here, including our own from Uganda. Maybe you could wave our presidents. Yeah, they are seated on the extreme left of my side. You are welcome, and thank you for participating in this conference. Allow me, Your Excellency, and the distinguished delegates to also recognize Her Excellency, the First Lady of Uganda, who is also the Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Museveni. We want to thank you and appreciate you for having come to be with us this morning. Thank you very much. We have come to the end of the opening ceremony, and we shall have to leave the room in reverse order. We shall allow our Excellencies, the Presidents and members on the podium to exit first, and then the rest of us will follow as we go for the coffee break. We are going to have a group photograph at the steps outside this conference hall, and the photo will have our Excellencies on the podium, the former heads of state and government, our Right Honorable Prime Minister, and all the Honorable Ministers present here, the heads of delegations of the various countries and organizations present, our religious leaders, and the honorable members of Parliament. So we shall gather at the steps outside, and we take a group photograph with our presidents who are here with us. We shall break off for coffee, and according to the program, we had allocated 30 minutes, but in the interest of catching up with time, once our presidents have taken the coffee, if they do that in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, we shall get back. Why? Because the chair of the next session is none other than the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. we shall have a presidential dialogue having our distinguished excellencies under the chairmanship of our President of Uganda in that dialogue. So let's break off for coffee, but once our presidents are ready, it is before 30 minutes, we shall come, assemble, and then we go into that interesting part of the conversation today, the presidential dialogue, where we are going to interrogate all these issues regarding the socio-economic transformation of Africa. So with that, I invite our Excellency, the Presidents and members on the podium to lead us as we get out to take the photograph. Thank you very much, and may God bless all of you.